And there it is. 68th overall. The Lions go with Hendon Hooker. Again, was mocked to them at times at 18 because we thought that they might be in the market for a quarterback of the future. They get one, but they get it in the 3rd round.
Yeah, and he's only 2 years younger than Jared Goff, surprisingly. And I'm half
That's
joking.
not a joke.
But, I mean, coming off the ACL, with that age, coming from that offense, it's just you have to figure out the timeline with Hendon Hooker. When do you realistically see him getting on the field? And with the Lions, they don't really have to force it. You know, Jared Goff is in the mix for at least one more year. You think probably 2 years. Hendon Hooker is, you know, he's a tough, smart, competitive guy. And what he did this past year in that Tennessee offense, I mean, defense is just you don't want to try and stop it because the way they would spread you out, and then Hendon Hooker will take advantage of it because he knows where to go with the football. I get it. He has starting potential, so fully on board with him being drafted here in day 2. But you know, again, it's with timeline. Where do you feel like because you do have to go back to the Virginia Tech tape to fully understand him as a pro prospect.
Yeah, in a quote unquote normal offense.
Right.
Yeah, not that freaky stuff Tennessee runs.
What do you think about his long-term prospects as a starter in the league?
I think his upside is as a solid starter, which is kind of funny because that's
what Jared Goff is.
Yeah. And also, and I was going to crack a joke about this, but this is what was going on was that, if he was taken in the 1st round, his rookie contract and everything, he'd be like 30-something. Well, now it's a year earlier, in case that does work out. But he does a lot of things well, like Dane just said. He can push the ball down the field. He throws a nice ball as well, very catchable. He has enough athletic ability. He's a better athlete than Jared Goff, of course. I think he's I'd put him like above average athlete. I wouldn't put good or anything, but he can get the job done as a scrambler, some design run stuff, throws a beautiful deep ball. But I think his upside is as a solid starter. And you got to look, too, is that the Lions have no depth at quarterback either. They needed a backup in any way, shape, or form. This kind of works out a little bit as far as their timeline and what they needed.
There's a level of unknown here, and I know you can say that with every quarterback evaluation. But coming from an offense where you just read half the field and everything's stretched out, it's just very different than what you're going to see in the NFL. So there's a level of unknown here that you just once he gets into an NFL camp and gets the playbook and gets some on-field reps, what's that going to look like mentally? So toughness, love it. Competitiveness, love it. Smarts, love it. Character's off the charts. But when the bullets are flying and you need to make your progression reads and make a decision, can he do it at a high level?
And I think the most important thing about this, him going in the 3rd round, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yes.
Exactly.
There's no pressure.
This reminds me of last year's draft when those guys went in the 3rd round, and as soon as you get that deep in the draft, the expectations change so much, the timeline changes so much. If it doesn't work out,
Desmond Ritter. If it works out, great.
Malik Willis. Titans drafted Will Levis today. We didn't even care that Malik Willis was on the roster because he was a 3rd round pick last year.
And then when we talk about Desmond Ritter, he's a good start. This is truly a
and
natural.
if it works out, if Desmond Ritter works out, great. If Desmond Ritter doesn't work out, okay. And so I think that's the benefit of this is that uncertainty. You can accept that uncertainty when you're drafting a guy in the 60s rather than 18th overall.
This makes me feel a lot better about my quarterback evaluation process, by the way. Again, just this whole, how everything's unfolded, I'm like, man, okay, all right, I'm not crazy. Because seeing him, as people wanted him to go early to 1st round, people are saying top 10, I was going, what are we doing here?
It had to make sense.
It did, and for my grade on him was basically a 3rd rounder, so it actually made me feel, and there's always inflation with quarterbacks, so it actually kind of made me feel better that that's where he ended up going, because that's how I see him, is that I think the downside of him is a high-end backup spot starter type, but he does have that potential to be that solid starter where he's a mid-tier starter, which isn't the worst thing to take in the 3rd round.
You play out this year.
Yep.
You see where you're at with Jared Goff. Do we want to keep him around for another year? Does Hendon Hooker surprise us a little bit? Just gives you more flexibility when you draft a guy in this range.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, it makes sense.
It does.
For the Lions, they were going with solid starter, high character guys. This guy, high character, we'll see if the solid starter part pays out in the future.